Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our webinar today. Our webinar is brought to you by KZN Growth Fund Agency, and it's about exploring career opportunities in technology. Before we officially start, I'd like to ask our CIO, Mr. Nhlapo, to officially welcome everyone. Thank you. Mr. Nhlapo, over to you.
Thank you. Let me just, do I need to show the video, Ms. Makubane?
Yes, please, sir.
Okay, let me just do this. Give me 1 second. Okay, good morning. I was just struggling with my network there, but morning. I'm sending some warm greetings from the province of KZN. My name is Nhlapo. I'm currently the Chief Investment Officer of the KZN Growth Fund Agency, an entity established in 2008 by the KZN Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, as a key strategic initiative to accelerate broad economic empowerment, job creation, and economic growth in the KZN province. So the main, stimulus, is to fund. Just talking about the growth fund. The main stimulus is just to fund the catalytic investments, which impact industries as governed by the KZN Growth Fund mandate and investment policy. On the 28th and 29th of April 2026, we attended the KwaZulu-Natal Jobs and Skills Summit at Albert Luthuli Convention Center in Durban, hosted by the Honorable Premier, Mr. Thamsanqa Ntuli. The summit was primarily geared at addressing unemployment in the province. Our MEC, Honorable Reverend Zondi, went on to highlight the importance of career choice for youth to assist in job creation and growing the economy. This propelled us as the Growth Fund to craft this webinar to share career opportunities in the growing technology sector and unlock opportunities in the tech economy.
Whatever you're making.
We partnered with Harambee Youth Employment Accelerator, a non-profit social enterprise that works with partners to find solutions for the challenge of youth unemployment. Harambee is an anchor partner in a breakthrough platform called SAYouth, which brings together many partners to create a single national network to allow young people to access a wide selection of job skills, opportunities, and engage young job seekers. We also invited our esteemed guest, Mr. Thando Dlamini, a technology entrepreneur, Afrofuturism advocate and founder of Afrofuturistic SG Technologies and Robotics, who will share his experience on opportunities in computing, hardware manufacturing, and the future of technology in Africa. The session today is not only educational, but it is also geared to inspire hope in the province that there are opportunities still worth exploring. This session will be facilitated by our marketing manager, Ms. Nombuso Makubane. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the session. Enjoy your day. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ms. Makubane.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nhlapo. Truly appreciate the welcome, and I'm hoping everybody's feeling welcome. So our session for today has two parts. The first part will be a conversation between me and Chris Cilenge, who's the lead in the Global Business Services opportunities for SAYouth. So Mr. Chris, please say hi to everybody.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to be on the call, and morning, Nombuso. Very excited, and thank you for the intro. And yeah, just looking forward to having a real conversation and hopefully inspire hope to the youth and to anyone who's looking for opportunities and how we can we can get into those opportunities.
Before we go any far, Chris, I'd just like to say I really commend the job that you guys do. I know there's a lot of talk about our interest in eradicating unemployment and focus on the youth. But what I like about your organization is that you're intentional and you do something that we can see to try and eradicate this problem. But I'm sure you also encounter some interesting challenges, which we'll talk about as we go along. But first and foremost, having worked in the South African market for a while, what do you see as the fastest growing opportunity in terms of careers in the technological sector in this day and age?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for asking it. I think we have to realize that the world is changing and the world is shifting towards technology. Everything is about technology these days. And so we are seeing that shift even here in South Africa, where something that we call global business services, which is in short, some people refer to it as GBS, but you may know it as maybe call center work or digital work or admin work. We are seeing an increase in activity in jobs being created in that particular sector. And perhaps one of the reasons why we see this is because South Africa on the global stage is seen as one of the top destinations to bring work into the country. So, in other words, we've got a lot of companies, let's say in the US, UK, Australia, who want to outsource their contact center or customer service or digital type work. And when they're looking at the global stage, they look at South Africa as a destination. And what is nice is that the reason why they look at South Africa is, one, we've got good infrastructure from a accessibility, from a connectivity to the rest of the world. But another thing that makes us stand out is the fact that South Africans innately have empathy built into how we operate and how we do things. And when you're looking at services like your customer service, your digital, yes, it's a lot technologically driven, but you still need a level of the human touch, the human empathy. And that is something that makes us quite unique. And we see that growth in terms of jobs being created here in South Africa.
Awesome. Thank you for that. But just to continue, my understanding of the technological spaces, we know that there's emerging technologies, but which ones should young people be really paying attention to right now?
Well, it's on everyone's mind. We talk about AI, and AI is coming into various forms, from the ChatGPT to Gemini to all sorts of tools that are being implemented or being used by individuals. So as a young person, I think what's more important is not necessarily having an array of knowledge across all the AI tools, but rather understanding what tools are available and what those tools can do for you in the journey of employment. So I'll give you an example. If you're still typing out your CV on, let's say, on Word and converting it to PDF, well, nowadays you've got an AI tool that can do that and quickly, right? So it takes away the chances of you maybe creating mistakes, not standing out. So there is ways in which you can use those tools. But what I would say to young people or to anyone that's really looking to get into these type of opportunities is become AI intelligent. So understand what is out there, because when you understand it, then it also helps you to know what to use and when to use it.
And this clearly confirms that there is a role for South Africa to play in this future global economy. What actually is that role?
Absolutely. If you look at the landscape, right, we've got a very young workforce. And when I talk about young, I'm talking about just the age across the population of South Africa is very young. Being young, it means that you are energetic, you are hopeful, you want to learn, you are determined, you've got resilience. And those are things that you can't replace with any other, technology can't replace that.
Yep.
And so just the fact that we've got that in abundance, it means that we still have a large role to play in how we shape technology. South Africa is leading the African continent in terms of access to technology, in terms of infrastructure, like we spoke earlier on, but also in terms of the intelligence that we can build within the communities. And so the rest of the world looks to a country like South Africa and says, wow, when I have a business, I'd like to invest in South Africa, or I'd like to open something in South Africa. So yeah, definitely great opportunities for us.
I'm hearing very positive feedback in terms of aspiration and what we could be doing going forward. But in the same breath, I also encounter a lot of young people who may feel despondent or discouraged for whatever reason. What's that one skill I can tell them to consider starting today, regardless of their career aspiration? And this is more focused on understanding how the value of technology and also that there is hope.
Yeah, the reality is, though, with all the things that I've mentioned, we still have an unemployment crisis, right? There's a
Yes.
lot of people that don't have work, that are despondent, have lost hope. And it is understandable because, when you've gone through school, when you've gotten to a certain level, the next thing is you want to contribute to the economy by either finding employment and. One of the skills that we haven't really tapped into, and when I say about we, I'm really using an umbrella term here, is the skill of entrepreneurship, because those opportunities still exist. But sometimes the mindset is that when I leave school, I need to go into employment. But at the same time, the entrepreneurship landscape is available, and it's like building muscles. When you start, you're not good at it. So when you start your entrepreneurship journey, you won't be great at it. But the fact is, there's a lot of support, and there's a lot of organizations that are willing to take the young people who are, wanting to get into some type of entrepreneurship and taking you under the wing, and teaching you how to become a successful entrepreneur. And one of those things, it's important because yes, getting work and getting a job is equally important. But if you become an entrepreneur, that means you're also contributing to the greater economy because you can actually hire more people. And so we start building a stronger economy that's not just dependent on, let's say, foreign work that's coming in, or massive organizations that maybe government has to employ. But we ourselves can already have skills that we can start using to become entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it just makes me realize I consider myself part of the adult solution. So it makes me realize how much more work we still have to do to really assist our youth in terms of just stabilizing the economy and being able to survive, which is pretty scary because there's not a lot that I can see we doing, but I know we talk a lot. But one thing that I really, really loved about your platform when I first encountered you is that you are intentional about making sure people can access jobs, learnerships, as well as internships. So for the youngsters who've joined us today, how can the young people listening be able to access your solutions that you offer on your SAYouth platform? And you can also just take a minute to just explain to them what SAYouth is. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I mean, when we look at the landscape and unemployment and how large and vast it is and the challenges that come with this, that's where SAYouth comes in as a platform. So when I talk about a platform, SAYouth.mobi, you can go on there, you can register a profile. It's data free. So, wherever you are across the country, you can get onto the platform. It's also very data light, meaning you don't have to have a very smartphone and those are some of the barriers, right, that actually limit young people from seeing opportunities. And once you get onto the SAYouth platform, which right now has about just over 5 million young people that have registered onto the platform, what we do internally as Harambee is we welcome you to the platform, but by giving you a call and understanding, okay, you've registered on the platform. Where are you in terms of your journey? What is happening? How can we support? Because everyone is different, right? Everyone's journey is also different, and what you're looking for is different. And so we contact every user that comes to the platform, and we have the conversations. Once we have that conversation, we then understand how we can direct this person to their next, whether it's a learnership, employment, self-learning, or just information about how to, get employment, or even how to become an entrepreneur, for example. And then on the SAYouth platform, what we've done is we've also partnered with just over 3,000 employers. And that means we've gone to employers, we've said to employers, look, we've got young people who are talented, who are on the SAYouth platform, who are looking for opportunities. what opportunities do you have, and can we get those opportunities visible on the SAYouth platform? And so if you log onto the SAYouth platform, you will start seeing opportunities that are one close to you and also where you match the highest, so that we try and get you into those opportunities where you would do well in. So that's how the SAYouth platform has been able to bridge the gap between visibility of opportunities and young people who perhaps have never even seen or don't know where to go to find work opportunities.
It's actually quite interesting that the solution is almost there, but there's also a work expected from us as the future of South Africa to do our bit. And I think in what you offer, the platform is just the start. And I'm sure the success stories you'll one day share with us. But within that, I'm sure there's a common mistakes that young people make when they apply for these opportunities. Which one is it? Or what could you caution us on?
There's many. There's quite a few. When you are in a situation of desperation, you don't have employment, and you log on to the SAYouth platform and you see an array of opportunities, one of the common mistakes we see is that a person will just apply to every opportunity, hoping that because I'm applying and I'm casting the net wide, I will land an opportunity. And that is understandable. I mean, really, as I mentioned, when you've got challenges, you also deal with it in a certain way. But what I would always say, and I say to the users of the platform, is look at the opportunity. It's got descriptions. Look at the skills that you've got, because we all have a certain level of skill. Apply to the ones where you also know that you can match up well. And if you don't get those opportunities, and if you don't, for some reason you're not called for an interview, or you've been called for an interview and you don't land that opportunity, it's not the end of the world, because it also helps you to become resilient, because looking for work, it's not the first job that you apply for that you're going to get, right? Sometimes it's that consistently knocking at that door, and it eventually does open. But at the same time, that's why we exist, to offer you the support. So for example, you've gone for an interview and you didn't get the job. We want to know why you didn't get the job, and then how can we help you for the next opportunity that comes up? What are some of the things that you can do? It could be self-learning. It could be the way you presented yourself in an interview. It could even be the way that you dressed for that interview that made the interviewee or the hiring company say, you know what, maybe not. So those are things that we currently have to support young people, or to support anyone who's looking for work. And I would say caution around apply for opportunities where you know you will match up the best of the ability, because that does help. That does help.
And I love the way you've highlighted the support that's available. But I just want to put a little spanner in the works by saying, when you are in a privileged position where you do have a job and you encounter somebody who is not able to even land a job, I think it requires a bit of empathy to be able to even ask, what were you wearing? How were you feeling? How do you manage the dynamics of your lack of knowledge or in relation to what they're going through? Because it might not make total sense to you. I mean, I would take it for granted that let's do a webinar, people will log on and they have data. When I know for sure now that there are people who don't have the privilege of this. So how do you maneuver those spaces?
That's a beautiful question. And for us, it goes back to the conversations and education we have with employers. Understand the workforce, understand the young people that we have, understand the limitations that are presented. I mean, gone are the days, you still see it sometimes, but we shouldn't have a line that is snaking out of a building because there's 10 jobs available and you've got 2,000 young people there. Why are those 2,000 young people there? Like, couldn't we be smarter in the way that we are recruiting? Because for me as a young person to be lining up there, it means I would have borrowed money from mom, from gran, traveled all this way to stand in a line, and there's only 10 jobs available. So there's a lot of education that we do with employers where we're looking at, when you advertise, what are you advertising? How are you selecting? When you are interviewing, what processes do you take young people through? Making them aware of the challenges, because until, to your point, you've worked and you've got a stable income, there are things that you will be rough on the edges, and someone might look at you and say, no, but you are not dressed properly, therefore we're not, you know what I mean? So And also to address like the dressing part, what we've done as Harambee internally, we've got what we call smart works. If anyone is in an interview and they don't have like suitable clothing, they can come to our offices, grab a piece of clothing for free that meets up with the interview that they're going to, so that they feel presented in a certain way.
Yes. Because what you look like really impacts how you feel.
Absolutely. We still live in a day and age where people look at you and they'll make a decision. So we don't want that to become the barrier. They should get to interview you, understand who you are, ask you questions, test your capabilities, and make a decision on that, not on how you look.
On the appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I truly, truly admire that. I'm comfortable in repeating again that what SAYouth stands for is phenomenal. And I really admire that it's not only just talking, but I've seen some of the work you do. And even us as KZN Growth Fund, we look forward to working with people who will be coming from your platform someday, coming to be able to apply for funding from us. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you just for now, when I take the opportunity as well to welcome our guest speaker. Can I just do a brief intro of our guest speaker this morning? Please welcome and join me in welcoming Uthando. Uthando Dlamini is the founder of Afrofuturist SG Technologies and Robotics, who serves as a Chief Information Officer at Global Dominion Solutions. He's a business strategist, a technology innovator, and an advocate for Afrofuturism. Thando is an alumni from the Vaal University of Technology and has spent a decade building technology-driven enterprises focused on ICT manufacturing, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, business intelligence, and emerging digital solutions. His entrepreneurial journey really began from humble beginnings of our beautiful province, KZN, in Durban, and he decided to establish multiple successful ventures, presenting innovative technology solutions on international platforms, including the BRICS in Moscow. He also contributed to the development of the Africa technology ecosystem. He's extremely passionate about youth empowerment and digital transformation. He's also very committed to creating opportunities for young people in the technological space. He works on hardware manufacturing as well as entrepreneurship. So today he joins us to share insights on a career opportunity in the computing hardware manufacturing space, emerging technologies, as well as future innovation in Africa. Welcome, Thando.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate the time you've given up to share with our youth in South Africa, in this instance, who have an interest in knowing what technology can do to improve their careers, their livelihood, and everything else around it. I look at technology very similar to the way I do my career, which is marketing. And technology is forever evolving, even in the marketing space. And I'll give you an example. When we were studying, the focus was on exciting things like creating adverts. Little did we know that 20, 30 years later, adverts are created once in a blue moon and TikTok has taken over. And that evolution can be very scary if you're not anticipating things to change. So, when you get into those meetings where people say, we've been doing it like this, when it comes to technology, I don't think you've got that luxury. But I'd like to engage you to just give me a better understanding as a South African who's also traveled, but how can South Africa position ourselves as a leader in technology, innovation, as well as manufacturing? I mean, I know the cell phone I use is not made in South Africa, and a big part of me gets concerned about that. But there are obviously barriers that cause that not to happen. What is your observation?
I think thank you very much for this platform. Good morning, distinguished guests, fellow innovators and young visionaries. I think today we stand at the intersection of Africa's creative spirit.
You've got a bit of feedback in your background. I'm not sure if we can fix it somehow.
Is it a lot better?
It sounds better for now, yes.
All right. Yes. So I think we stand at the intersection of Africa's creative spirit and technological awakening. I think that's the most important thing. For decades, we've consumed imported devices, softwares, and even the narrative. So I think when we communicate and discuss Afrofuturism, we are specifically saying that the time has come to create our own. And at GDSC, that's exactly that that's what we're doing. And specifically to then get into the discussion, I think we've got a lot of underserved technology fields. When you look at your hardware manufacturing and repair ecosystems, Africa imports about 90% of all devices. And basically that's a space that we need then to look into, and that's the space we're in, so that we can reverse that flow. From your hardware manufacturing and repair ecosystems to your software development and your firmware development. And when you say software development, we're looking at the fact that most softwares that we have are done outside, and then we customize them instead of then doing our bespoke solutions that are actually designed for our market. So we are looking at it's almost, we can call it reverse engineering what's existed, but with cultural, with cultural aesthetics, and then having it come from South Africa, from Africa to the world.
From where I'm sitting, we have a very strong history of adapting, like you gave an example, and we haven't quite mastered the art of for us by us culture, where we're comfortable using proudly South African in every sphere. So how do you foresee us being adequately prepared for the tomorrow's technology? Is our mind wired properly for us to now feel we're taking a chance on what we have created?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. We firmly looked at the fact that it's not only in the education to prepare the young people for the future, but most importantly, it's the investment of the research and development. So yes, so we should specifically position education as part of the tech research. I think there's an institution, Moses Kotane Research Institute.
Yes, it's one of ours.
Development, yes. That's an institution. So institutions like that basically serve that purpose, and there should be more of them, and more programs from them into your primary schools and high schoolers, because that's when then the mind, if we can focus on researching. I'll make an example now. We still focused on looking at fiber access, this and that, while there's quite, right now as we speak, there's experimental technology called Li-Fi, which is Li-Fi, yes, L-I-F-I, which is basically light emitting network signals. So what we're saying is, if you get into your room and you turn on the light, there's network, so there's internet. If you turn off the light, then there's no internet. And the reason why they're on and off is because then they found that, there's radiation sickness with our cell phones and this, and direct link to cancer. But you see, such technology, you can only get to know that through research and the investment in research. So I think to prepare the youth, we need to stop focusing on the education of the technology that we have, but look at educating in research and development of technology that's coming. Thank you.
Sure. That's, yeah, no, I totally understand. And I've gotten to understand that Wi-Fi is a Maslow's hierarchy of need, because you can't get grandkids to visit Gogo because there's no Wi-Fi there. So it's a basic need. Um, you made mention of something called Afrofuturism. And I know that when we listen to technological talk, everybody talks about the fourth industrial revolution. But I'll be honest with you, when I heard Afrofuturism, I almost felt like that's where we should all be aspiring to. Can you just give me a bit more on that and what the difference is with 4IR?
Okay. So yeah, so what we have is we've got 4IR, which is very popular and which is, I think, one of the most marketed terms out there. 4IR meaning the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah.
So there was a first, second, third, fourth. There'll be a fifth moving forward.
Okay.
But when you look at it, so things like the other industrial revolutions, brought us Facebook, Instagram. They brought us certain systems, certain softwares and hardwares. And when you look at the fourth industrial revolution, you are basically looking at a that's popular based on Eurocentric, and it was actually coined by the World Economic Forum, whereby you are fusing physical, digital, and biological systems. So we now getting into these robots that everyone sees.
Yes.
Those are products of your fourth industrial revolution. But if you look at it, all these softwares and all of these systems, they are not built for the African communities. I'll make you an example. You purchase certain systems don't really work the same because of our people culture, our work culture, this and that and that, and also our understanding and education and knowledge. So then the comparison between 4IR and Afrofuturism is that Afrofuturism is a cultural aesthetic whereby we say African culture and technology should be combined. So think about it the next time you open up maybe your banking app, because I'll specifically just make an example with KZN. The next time you open up your banking app, if your banking app Yako has the feel and the look of the actual app is your cultural aesthetic. There's a shield, there's this and that and that, and it looks much better. It's easier to use. You'll be a happy user of it. You see, so Afrofuturism is basically then African technology with the cultural aesthetic of it coming from African creators for African people. And the comparison between the two is that the focus of Afrofuturism is your cultural identity, while 4IR focuses on the Western and the industrial transformation. So this one empowers African narratives, and then that one empowers your Eurocentric initiatives. Yes. So basically, instead of 4IR, we should be discussing Afrofuturism going forward.
I think that the biggest opportunity there is definitely for us to market Afrofuturism as favorable and attractive, because what we market is the ability to adapt, which is why we're very keen on doing what the international people are doing in terms of fashion senses and types of music, because we haven't quite mastered marketing ourselves as also favorable and also best. So there's a niche there that maybe someday we should explore further. But there's also in the technological field areas that are underserviced. With your observation and your experience, have you seen anything that really presents a great opportunity for the youngsters?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'd share a critical issue is, I think, one, education. a lot of youngsters are still studying what was said to be studied, what we should study. You know,
Yes.
while the entire world moving forward, I think we've seen even in some of the science fiction and this and that, the entire world will be tech. Everything. I always make an example and I say, when you look at Forbes, the top 10 are all softwares and technology. So that's the world's economy. The top 10 are all tech. So that already highlights a direction you should look into. So I think the youth should focus on data, the
Okay.
utilizing data, analyzing data, you know. And what we're saying with that, there are games that you can play. I'll share some of our softwares as well, demos that the youth can learn through. So looking at data as a space, analyzing, testing of data, and then we look at hardware manufacturing and repairing. We've
Okay.
got, yes, through the economic development of KZN, we've got our warehouse in Mandini, where we're looking at taking, I think, about 100 of the youth on learnership. And specifically, they'll be trained in hardware manufacturing and repairs. Because you might, today you're repairing a laptop, but tomorrow you'll have to repair a robot. So let's move ahead of the curve. Let's move ahead of the curve, whereby they start training in how to repair these humanoids, the ones that look like humans, these robots. If they learn now, in 10 years, there'll be a need for that, you know. So it's hardware manufacturing and repair, and then as well, I think most importantly, let's look at e-waste. E-waste, that's waste management. Everyone looks at waste management as just another municipal issue or this or that, but that the space of softwares in waste management is vast. And we've got software that we've built around that is currently functioning, managing and sorting and organizing the entire waste process. I think we'll look at then opening such softwares, probably demo sessions in the future, just to get a feel of what we're actually sharing. But you look at waste management as well. And then I think lastly, let's look at the software development. Software development no longer needs the maths that it needed when I started. You know,
Yeah.
there's AI. Yes, there's AI now. So AI does a lot for you, and it can teach you faster than, you know, you can learn how to build how to build a website now in 5 days, while I needed YouTube for maybe 2 months back then.
Yes.
Yeah, so when we speak about these terms and these things, they still, like, the youth still looks at, oh, I need maths, I need to be smart, I need to know. You just need to be creative. If you can't think of a problem, find one that exists. Get AI, infuse it with AI, see how you can you can solve a problem that exists with innovative.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, so I'll just repeat that. So it's data, it's hardware manufacturing and repairs. Then you've got your waste management, e-waste management, and then now you then have the last one. Thank you.
So I don't want to underplay our lack of understanding of the entire technology space. And I'll be honest in saying we even joke about born before technology because the older generation is not so tech savvy as the younger. So that creates a bit of a generation gap. But I think there are more opportunities that you've also highlighted that exist. And one of the bigger ones for me would be the importance of collaboration. You made an example with Moses Kotane. There's a friend who's also done some training in Umlazi on cell phone repairing. So there's obviously a wave coming that amplifies the importance of this opportunity. But there's also the reality that the moment you're talking about repairing cell phones and component manufacturing and technology, there's the assumption that you have to be super, super brilliant to venture into that space, one. And secondly, it's occupied by non-South Africans at the moment, who will be the guys who fix our cell phones at the shopping mall. How do we then bridge that gap to make it real to the guys who are online now that actually I can do it. I can wake up tomorrow, get the skill to repair a cell phone, and open my own little shop, ekhaya or in the garage, whatever the case is. What's missing there?
Yeah, I think to every young person listening, whether from a rural area or township, I think the first step is to understand that your location is not your limitation.
Yes.
So you start small, you learn to repair, you learn to assemble and understand the device, and then you are welcome to join community tech hubs. We are one of them as well. We've got a couple of centers that we are developing. And another example, I know Moses Kotane has 16 digital labs. Become a member of those communities.
Okay.
Because as much as we've got an influx of, as we've said, the foreign nationals who are already in the space, it's as simple as if you sell to your community and you are from the community, normally the community supports you. And it's a matter of understanding, I think most importantly as well, understanding and mastering digital compliance.
Okay.
Yes, that's your POPIA Act, yeah. So it's just understanding that and then using from what you do, join our communities. I think I'll share an email as well from our team where basically the youth can get us assistance, and we can work to help them set up and develop, because that's part of our mandate. Our mandate is social.
Okay.
Yes, it's social. So therefore, we assist the youth develop and enhance what they already have.
We'll also have to find a way to make our clientele able to access you. So they'll follow us, we'll follow up with something on social media. But I was also thinking, while you're talking about the assembling of computers, etc., imagine if we were able to portray that work as nicely as we do content creation, because there's no barrier when it comes to content creation. Everybody thinks they can. So one day we'll have to get to a space where everybody looks at manufacturing components as a doable and they actually take it up. So I want to be alive when that happens. But yeah, moving on to what role we as government, learning institutions like your universities, even private sector, what role do we have to play in this technological space, improving talent, creating excitement, growing that space?
Yeah, I think I'll share that. Looking at what even I think this webinar itself, it's a highlight of just how far the government has come in terms of working around and understanding technology itself as an institution, and looking at supporting the youth. I do believe that further steps I think in general we always looking at the biggest parts of technology. I was sharing information the other day that the government should also look at the youth, the young people that are starting podcasts, that are starting these videos, the creators, as a separate market altogether in terms of technology, and looking at enhancing that. So I think the role that the government can continue, I won't say start, can continue looking at enhancing is the availability of spreading and sharing such knowledge just like this webinar.
Yeah.
Because I think I think a young person listening in and having an understanding now of concepts like Afrofuturism, is what the government should be looking at, striving for, and working around daily. For them to know that, okay, there is something called assembly. You can actually repair. Where can I get that? How do I get that? So I think the most important is the platforms, because everything else, whether it's funding and this and that, those are already there. But it's the knowledge of what to do and how to do it, and an introduction to companies that are getting assisted from the government or have some partnership or work with government agencies. So I will say that no, I believe the KZN Growth Fund is doing exceptionally on that role specifically, and it's just a matter of then keeping the consistency when it comes to that. Thank you.
I'm actually going to ask you something very cliche, because I realize that especially as government, when we stand on podiums and talk, even about availing opportunities, we always pull out the rural and the township people and say we need to give more focus there, we need to give advice there, we need to make things more successful there. And from what you've shared with me now in terms of possible incubations, possibly digital hubs, etc., those can be set up in rural and township areas. Am I right in thinking that we kind of might not have an excuse for not being able to penetrate those places?
100%.
Okay.
I think when we look at setting up at rural places, I'll make an example for one. There's Imbali.
Yes.
Yes, so those we look from a business perspective and a upliftment perspective, we look at certain rural townships and look at the ones that are mostly stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the stressed areas is where we want to do the setups. So in Bali, there's a business hub there that we are working together with the government there to set up our tech hub.
Mm-hmm.
So we're saying that we can do it. We will do it. The trouble becomes there's security concerns.
Yeah.
Around it, so it becomes a little difficult, or sometimes it takes longer than it should, due to security concerns. So I think the government should assist when it comes to the security of
Which
what we
impacts
see.
on access, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So access. So when it comes to the penetration of the townships and rural areas, it's happening. We are doing it. We've got a couple of institutions that we know as well that specifically look at township and rural areas. But the problem is always then one, where it goes back to the security concerns.
Okay. I'm almost tempted to say from what I've picked up, because you highlighted the importance of location not being an obstacle and the importance of starting now. But if you were just to summarize to a youngster who's out there feeling a bit despondent, thinking, oh, what must happen now? Technology is complicated. What is that one thing you'd like them to take away today that will help them tomorrow?
I think so. It will be to purely focus on the fact that you need to know that the future will no longer be imported.
Yes.
It will be developed and will be manufactured right here in your background. The best thing you can do is to try and understand what we are saying when we're speaking about manufacturing in your background. What will we need? We might need laptop bags. We might need boxes. We might need design, you know.
Actually.
So it's vast. It's not just manufacturing and this and that. We might need transport, you know. So let's then focus on the fact that it will be done in your background. So what role then will you play when it's done in your background? Thank you.
And I know my boss is on this call, and all I can say is that I foresee a masterclass on technology that will look at the entire value chain, where we start from conception to consumer delivered goods. Because honestly, we might just be sitting on a gold mine with this technology underutilized. And because we seem to have the knowledge and you guys have the skill, all we have to do is just get it into the right heads, spaces, so that people can really do their part to grow the economy. I really, really appreciate the time you spent with us, Tando. Thank you so, so much. I'm not sure if our principal, Mr. Makubane, is on the line. I want to just give him an opportunity to talk about what KZN Growth Fund does, but focusing on DFIs. And the focus on DFIs is because some of the people in this platform are ready to start their businesses, but have that obstacle called funding. So he'll just touch base there. Mr. Makubane, are you on the line? Thank you so much, Tando.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Makubane. I am definitely on the line. I'm not sure if you're ready for my short presentation. Maybe if I can share my screen.
Yes.
Let me see. Can you see it? Can I just put it on the
presentation mode? Thank you.
Where is it? Can you see it on your side?
You have to go into PowerPoint, yeah?
Let me see.
And then press presentation. Okay. Perfect.
Can you see it now?
Definitely. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandile Makubane, and I am the principal in the investment team, which is the core and the engine of the fund. Why are we critical for the fund? Because we are the department that then looks at the transactions, which ultimately creates jobs through our investment, which is what we're here for. But we obviously, being owned by the government, we form part of what we call the Development Finance Institution, which works to a certain extent slightly different from your traditional banks, because we normally are created with a developmental mind to create and trigger opportunities that will stimulate the economy. As you can see on my presentation, we are usually government owned or partially sometimes. There are DFIs we are also owned by endowment funds from different institutions, but the whole aim is to provide funding for projects and businesses that promote economic growth, job creation, transformation, and development. One would then ask, how are we different from the banks? In as much as we need to be sustainable as the fund, but you would find that our true dividends comes from what we call empowerment dividends, where we would focus on rural development, we would focus on youth development, we would focus on women-owned businesses and majority Black-owned businesses. All those put together seem then to attract otherwise what segment would have been excluded, as you all know the history of South Africa. And with that in mind, I don't want to say we are cheaper than the traditional institutions, but through those dividends being recognized, we then use those to reduce our cost of capital when we on land or when we participate in projects. That is where the key dividends comes in, and then obviously sustainability, because our funds has to rotate and turn as many as possible to stimulate the economy, which is the primary purpose, is to stimulate industrialization, entrepreneurship, infrastructure development, and inclusive economic participation. As I've mentioned, inclusive being all the segments that I mentioned above. These are the examples in South Africa of the DFIs, including Itala, which is not here, Itala Development Finance. And then it's us, it's your SIFA, your National Empowerment Fund, DBSA, Land Bank. We all created to focus on different segments, but you can see we provide different solutions with the common goal, which is, to stimulate the economy. And then I'm going to move much more closely now to what is required and what we do as a KZN Growth Fund. So developing a bankable business plan and financial projections. I know this line has been spoken a lot, but it's not as simple as the line. It is a lot of thinking that needs to come in. And that's why you can't just rely on a consultant to do it for you. You have to direct the consultant in terms of the outcome of those business plans, because you are the promoter behind. The consultant is just there providing a professional service, but is really you transferring what is in your head, in your vision, into paper, so that then it makes sense to us when we look at your business proposal. Financial projections, I've heard people say, just grow it by 10%. It doesn't really work like that. You zoom into the particular industry that you want to get into and understand the dynamics that affects that industry. For example, if you are in a farming and then you harvest twice a year, then you cannot just grow it by 10%. You have to then see in terms of your land and what you have put down in crops and your yields, and say, I think in June, we will be able to harvest X. Based on that, this is how much we're going to make. So it's much more involved, but you just transferring all the ideas in your head. And then obviously register the business and ensure all this compliance, which is monotonous, but it has to be done. I think someone needs to be muted. And then you match your project to the most suitable DFIs. As if you recall, they all provide different sort of solutions. I'll make a very typical example. If you look at the National Empowerment Fund, it's got at least three funds or 4 funds within it. It's got what we call Imbeu, which looks at anything up to about 15 million, as far as I could remember, or 20 million. But it starts from 250,000. And then you've got Umnoto, which looks at things that are much more your corporate finance, your acquisition. Then you've got what you call, they used to call it rural development, where you can then look at projects in a bigger scale, but happening in rural areas. So which means whatever that you want to do, you need to research about these institutions so that you know exactly where to place your application, because you cannot then take, for example, a franchise business and take it to Land Bank. Land Bank only deal with agricultural sector. So research is quite important. Your SITFA, it's much more smaller. They look at a smaller check size. So research is quite critical so that you align your business ideas with the right funder. Submitting an application and supporting documents, quotations, contracts. What we have here at KZN Growth Fund now, we've got what we call a web portal, where number one, it guarantees the safety of your information that you've submitted. You can't say you did and it got disappeared. It sits on our cloud, and then when you follow through there, you can go step by step in ensuring that at the very least, the application meets the minimum requirements for then the team to start looking at your application. Then there's something called the due diligence assessment before approval. For any, developmental finance, they need to conduct this just to satisfy themselves that this business will work. And then from there, there's contracting. Contracting is whereby now you're signing those loan agreements and agreeing to terms, and then the payment. This disbursement can take form of once off or partial or stages, depending on the nature of your project. I mean, you will agree with me that if you're building something, you're most likely to have stages of disbursement based on the progress of the construction and all those things. Meanwhile, if you're just buying a business, depending on what you've agreed on with the seller, it might be a once-off payment, or if you're buying equipment. So this is based on the business that you're looking at. Coming home now, I always say we are a very unique provincial funder, in a sense that if you look at all the institutions, you would ordinarily find these products in what we call national funds or DFIs, like your DBSA, your IDC, and your PIC. But as a provincial funder, I think we are very fortunate as KZN Growth Fund that, as KZN as the province, that we have such products which ordinarily would not be available on provincial funds or funders. So we do ordinary shares, meaning we can buy shares into your business as a way of supporting your business. High level, when you buy shares into a business, which means you lessen the burden in terms of repayment. Instead of putting a loan, you can make a portion be ordinary shares. It's patient capital, meaning that we're all waiting for the glory of this business. Of course, there's terms and conditions that apply for us to participate in that form. However, it's a product that is very rare for a provincial funder to have. We have shareholders' loans, which we can put, which is similar to ordinary shares, but just taking a slightly different risk and form. We've got your preference shares and your hybrid instruments. Hybrid means you can put the one that sits on the fence, whether it looks like an ordinary shares or loans. Why these are important? They're important for various reasons, but some of the reasons would be to reduce the risk, cash flow risk, or default risk, to be exact, but also to help those entrepreneurs that would ordinarily not have at a certain level sufficient equity contribution, yet there's a very good opportunity which can unlock the very development dividends that I mentioned. So we would then pick any of these depending on the cash flow and apply them. Then we've got your debt products, which is your senior debt, your mezzanine. Mezzanine and subordinated debt is similar. What is the mezzanine? It's those loans that are called junior loans, whereby you can have a senior debt coming in, taking security. We still come and put a mezzanine without taking security. That means higher risk. However, your project has to be so solid and balanced for the KZN Growth Fund to take that element of risk, because there's no security for mezzanine and there's no specified terms of payment as long as come the period in which you've agreed on this loan is paid up. I know it sounds too good to be true, but it is true that we've got transactions that we've put in these instruments. Albeit the committees are not very fond and attracted to them because of the risk. However, we do find ourselves having to play in that space if the transaction is very balanced in all the sides, including meeting our mandate. High level, we start at 20 million at the very minimum. That would be net of equity contribution that you would have invested in the business, and we can go up to 100 million per one transaction. And as I've mentioned, we've got equity, but on the equity, our sweet spot is between about 35 at a very stretch 50 million, depending on the nature of the transaction. And we are not allowed to put, for example, debt and equity in one transaction. Our policy doesn't allow that, but we can play around with multiple instruments within one quadrant. For example, within the debt quadrant or the equity quadrant. I think, Ms. Makubane, that is all from my side. I will stop sharing and maybe show my face a little bit. I am in the office. I don't know if you can, I don't know, it's not allowing me.
Mr. Makubane, we're talking technology. You can work anywhere in the world.
Is it allowing me or?
No, not yet.
Okay, I think there's some technology issue.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because I have actually shared on my side, but it's just not, it wouldn't allow. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mama Makubane. I truly appreciate this. I'd also like to take the opportunity to please request any questions you might have to be put on the chat, or the last presentation Mr. Makubane had, there was an email address and a phone number, but the best way to get all the information you require is to go onto our website, www.kzngrowthfund.co.za. By virtue of being an entity of ETIA, we are servants. We are here to serve, we are here to help, and we're willing to do the best we can to make sure that the South African youth really gets a fair chance to be players in the economic space. But before I say my goodbyes, I'd like to ask my boss, Mr. Xolani Nhlapo, to just give a quick vote of thanks.
Program Director, Ms. Makubane, representatives of SAYouth, Harambee, SG Enterprises, Mr. Chris Twelenge, Mr. Thando Dlamini, and all the young people who joined us today. Thank you for being part of this important session. We have had a valuable conversation about the opportunities that exist in the technology economy, particularly areas such as computing, hardware, manufacturing, emerging technologies, skills development, and employment and entrepreneurship. As we close, I want to encourage the young people who participated today to see this webinar as a starting point, not as a once-off event. The opportunities discussed today require curiosity, discipline, and continuous learning. The world of technology is moving quickly, and those who are willing to learn, adapt, and position themselves can participate meaningfully in growing the sector. Youth Month and the memory of June 16 remind us that young people have always played a central role in shaping the future of South Africa. On behalf of KZN Growth Fund Agency, I would like to thank SAYouth, SG Enterprises, Harambee, Mr. Thando Dlamini, Mr. Chris Twelenge for contributing to this initiative. We also thank all participants for their time, engagement, and interest. Let us continue working together to continue to connect young people with practical opportunities, support platforms, and pathways into the economy. We hope that today's session has inspired action and that each participant leaves with a clearer sense of what is possible in South Africa, especially in the technology sector. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.